Alright, so I'm going to be doing the chicken soup next. This is a really good recipe because it's a great way of using your leftovers from your roast chicken that we did earlier. So I'll just grab the leftovers from the fridge. So what I've got here is the chicken. So we just got basically the bones and some of the meat left, but normally it gets thrown away, but you really don't have to. It's a really good way of using this leftovers and kind of taking away from cooking again. So what I've got here is some of the bones, which is all essentially flavour. So what I'm going to do is shred down the chicken and I'm going to cook it into a broth with some vegetables, some risotto and some herbs. So just make a really nice, simple soup to eat. The idea behind this is there's nothing too offensive in it, no strong spices. It's just a really tasty, flavoursome way to get a ton of protein, nutrients and vegetables into you. So I will just start by getting the pot on, getting some onions and bacon frying off, and then we'll just add in the vegetables and the chicken as we go. Alright, so what I've got here is 3 onions and a couple of cloves of garlic, finely chopped. So what I'm going to do is get that sweating away. So just use a tiny bit of grapeseed oil, or vegetable, canola, whatever you've got at home. So you want to get that sweating, but you don't want it to colour. Essentially, when you're sweating off onion and garlic, you want it to go translucent. So that's allowing all of the natural sugars to cook, but not to caramelise and burn, which will, in the end, give you quite a bitter flavour. All right, so adding in the onion and garlic. And you want it to be hot so you can really get that sizzle going straight away. At this point, you need a spoon. At this point, you just want to give it a little stir. Make sure it's not too hot. A good little tip when sweating off onion and garlic is to add a small amount of salt. So that helps the excess moisture to be absorbed out and stops it from burning. So it allows it to sweat more. Alright, so once that's sweating, you want to get some bacon in there. So this isn't a necessary part of the soup, it's just an extra flavour. If you don't eat pork or don't eat meat, it obviously does not have to be added, although it does add a really nice flavour and also a little bit of extra fat. So what I'm going to do is just cut it into some strips. Again, this is going into a soup and it's going to be all kind of together, so it doesn't really matter if it's a perfect chop, but just making sure again to tuck your fingers so you're not cutting close to the tips and run your knife through. So I'll now add this bacon to the pan. I'm just going to add this bacon into the onions and garlic that are sweating. So just drop it in. What you want to do at this point is make sure the pot's on quite a low temp, so it's just slowly ticking over and you're not getting any burning, so you have time to take care chopping the vegetables and not have to be worrying what's going on in the pot. So what we're essentially doing with the onion, garlic and bacon is making a base of a stock. So stock is made up of meat and vegetables and water. And what we're doing is going to draw all of the flavour out of the chicken and the bones, and the onion, garlic, herbs that we're going to be adding is just going to be adding this extra level of flavour to it. So what I'm going to do is just pick, kind of as roughly as you like, the chicken off the bones, but not wanting to break down the structure of the chicken too much. So you want to leave this main part as one so that you don't have to worry about picking out the bones later on. So from here I'm just going to put the shredded chicken and the bones into here. So straight in. So what is essentially going to happen is when we add the water to this, the water is going to get flavoured by the chicken and make a stock. So it's just a really good way of using those leftover pieces that you wouldn't normally. So from here you want to be careful that you don't let it cook for too long without water, because that's going to cause it to burn. So what you want to do here is add some water. So this water is essentially going to turn into the broth or the soup. And it's going to be flavoured by all the chicken, the onion, the garlic and the bacon that's already in here. So you want to add roughly 1 litre and 1.5 litres of water, which is going to be turned into stock. Okay, so the soup's been cooking for about an hour and a half. So what I'm going to do is put in the risoni. So this is a really great little thing to add into the soup to bulk it up and to make you feel a lot fuller after you've eaten it. If you don't have risoni or you don't like risoni, then feel free to use pearl barley, lentils, beans, like anything. This is a base recipe, so you can just play a change with it as much as you like. So what I'm going to do now is get the vegetables ready for the soup. So we're going to use some carrots, some zucchini, some broccoli and some silver beet. Of course you can play and change with the vegetables. It's whatever's in season, whatever you can get your hands on, whatever you feel like eating. So if you want to add potatoes or sweet potato or beans, peas, any vegetable, then feel free. What I'll show you is a really quick way of getting some zucchini and carrot ready to go into the soup, which I find really handy by using a grater. By grating the vegetables and adding them into the soup, it kind of is taking away a lot of the texture. So that's really handy if you have a really sore mouth or suffering from ulcers. So normally when you cut vegetables so small, you're losing a lot of nutrients in the way that you cook them. Or if you're steaming them or if they're overcooking, you're essentially, the more a vegetable is cooked, the more nutrients you're taking out of it. But the beauty of a soup is when you're cooking it, the nutrients are going into the broth or the liquid that you're about to eat. So essentially, it's just a really good way of eating as much nutrients from the vegetables as you can. Right, so the risoni has been cooking with the chicken for a while now, so what we're going to do is start adding our vegetables. So we've just been grating the carrots and zucchini. A positive note of grating is that everything's in the grater there ready for you. So all you've got to do, slide your hand under, be careful not to drop too much on the floor, and then just drop it into the soup. At this point, have a check how the risoni is going. So you can tell by the grain that it's still got a little while to go. That's good because we can get the rest of the veggies ready while that's cooking. It's best also just to put the lid on when it's cooking because that's going to stop any moisture from escaping. And that means you're going to have a larger volume because moisture is just evaporation of water. Alright, so I'm going to get the silver beet and broccoli ready for the soup now. So I find that with the broccoli it's easy to cut single florets off. And from here, you want it to be all nice small pieces. So you just run your knife down and you're breaking off the main root of the floret, which is the largest bit. And then from there, you can just cut it into some nice bite-sized pieces. All right, so just running down either end. This is just an optional garnish. You don't have to add parsley and lemon, but I like to add it at the end because it adds a really nice fresh note to the soup. I find that if you just kind of push it together a little bit, you end up getting this nice little tight bundle, and then all you do is run the knife through it as close as you can without cutting yourself. So a lot of people will cut a lemon sort of straight down the middle, which is good, but it's often hard to get a lot of juice out of it because of how hard it is. So all I'm going to do is cut along either side, each cheek of the lemon. So what you're doing here is keeping all of the seeds in the core here and getting two really nice cheeks that have no seeds, and you can get a really good squeeze out and get the most juice as possible. And then the core, all you can do is hold and you get the seeds drop in your hand and then you don't have any in your dish. So we'll just leave that there, and that's ready to garnish the chicken when it's done. Here you go. So this pot's been cooking for maybe 25 to 30 minutes. So it's already got a lot of flavour out of the chicken, so essentially you don't have to let it cook for the full hour and a half if you haven't got the time. So what I'm going to do now is add the green vegetables. So don't worry about them looking so big in there because they are going to shrink down. That's one of the things about silver beet, it's deceptively high water content, so it will always shred down to basically nothing. Add in your broccoli. So essentially this is going to be ready 1 to 2 minutes after the vegetables are in if you want to eat it when it's really nice and fresh. Or alternatively you can let it simmer for a bit longer and eat it in half an hour or so. All right. So there should be a really delicious smell coming off that now. So from here, you've got to remember to take the bones out because they're going to be pretty unpleasant when you eat them. So from memory, we left it in 2 large pieces. So just make sure that you're getting a lot of the bones. There we go. So they are the 2 main parts that we put in. Just making sure that they're out. So from here, just going to add some fresh parsley. So the beauty of this soup is there's a lot of vegetables, a lot of broth, and a lot of things going on. So if you have a really, really sore mouth, then you can make sure that what you're eating is potentially all of the broth. Or if you aren't suffering from that, then just kind of make sure you're getting all of the really chunky filling bits in there. All right. And just finish that with a bit of lemon because lemon is great on everything. There we go.